Welcome back into this week's WTOL 11 Weather Hangout. It is so great to see you and great to have you along if you're watching on WTOL 11 Plus or on YouTube. Great to have you along here as we get ready to wrap up the, so-called winter season that we've been in. We've got meteorologist Matt Willoughby and meteorologist John Birchfield along with you today. Gentlemen, John, how are we doing today?
Good to be here, and I like that you put quotes around winter because
so-called winter.
We really have not had much in the way of snow. Of course, we got a little bit of that wintry mix today, but that's about as good as we can do in terms of getting that wintry weather.
Let's blame the southern guy, right, Matt? This was like a winter.
I like warm weather. And
I like the warm weather.
But I came up here for snow, and I haven't gotten any of it, so I'm disappointed in you two.
Well, blame or thank. Some viewers would probably be thanking Matt for the lack of snow. Others really looking forward to some real winter.
Yeah.
John, we're going to talk a little bit about this kind of coming up in today's episode as well, just how unusual some of the snowfall has been. Both of you are going to be breaking down a little bit on that. And, you know, is it too early to start thinking spring? Are there signs of it that are showing up?
I think there are.
Wow.
Yeah, we've seen some signs already in early bloom in parts of the country, and it seems a little early and premature for that, but with how mild it's been.
Okay, so what's one thing for each of you that kind of spring, that sings spring is here for you? What do you look forward to this time of the year? I think everyone has that one thing.
You know, those spring allergies, you know. When I start sneezing a lot, you know spring's here. Look forward to, no. But I love the smells and the sights. Those sunnier days, later evenings, getting more daylight, lots to look forward to.
Yeah, for me, usually it's the humidity, but of course we're up here, so usually I don't get the humidity, but probably the mayflies. I think that.
The mayflies.
The mayflies. My goodness, we're already out to like late May, early June before that happens. I need hope. I need hope for spring before that. I look forward to this. The local ice cream shops opening up. We got a couple of my favorite. I mean, I'm partial to many of them, but we've got a couple of my favorites that are going to be opening up first day of March. Can't wait to go visit. Maybe both of them.
You know who's going to be in the front of the line?
I'm going to have to fight
you and Weekman.
Ryan Weekman. We're going to be elbowing at Mr. Freeze on March 1st opening up, and Mr. G's also.
I haven't heard of that. Man, I might have to try that one.
We're going to take you around.
Yeah, ice cream tour it is.
And you know what the great thing about it, and this is what I love about Northwest Ohio and Southern Michigan, it could be 35 degrees, raining sideways, snowing, sleeting, and people still be lined up for ice cream the first day those places open up.
Man.
Yep, that Midwestern toughness. It's worth it.
It is very much worth it. So we'll talk what we do have left with winter. Another kind of cool fact, guys, have we seen any measurable snowfall so far this month of February?
No, and there's a good chance we're going to go down as the least snowy February we've ever recorded in Toledo. Wouldn't that be something?
Well, the question is, Matt, is winter occurring anywhere across the country? It certainly isn't showing up here, is it?
Yeah, not here, but it is definitely showing up somewhere. And of course, one place you would think where it is, and that's in Colorado.
Okay, ski country, right?
Here's something to give you a little tease. Snow blew into the wind of northern Colorado on Monday, with the National Weather Service forecasting a very strong winds throughout Tuesday. Watch this as that wind starts to pick up.
It's whipping up.
Look at that.
Kind of like a little ground blizzard is what it would look like there. Doesn't necessarily have to be snowing to get those reduced visibilities. High winds could certainly whip that snow up. Part of a very large storm system. I could actually say this is probably one of the bigger storm systems the entire winter season. Swept out of the Rockies to the northern plains. And it is giving us a little bit of ice at the time of this recording, but mainly up into Michigan is where they've seen the worst of the conditions.
Yes, exactly.
Little taste of where winter is. Next up, we've got the International Space Station. How about this? From outer space, capturing video above a powerful cyclone over the Indian Ocean. This was headed for Madagascar. This was late last week. The ISS above captured the space station through a live stream through NASA as the craft passed over the storm, and you could see it. Look at that.
That's a beautiful eye.
Yeah,
man.
Like a work of art. I love satellite imagery. It's really cool to get a bird's eye view of what's going on down here on Earth from outer space.
One of my favorite courses in college, you know, mesoanalysis and satellite imagery. It was very cool to see that. And the advances that we've seen in some of the data that we could get from outer space, too, with some of the GOES 16 data and some of the high-resolution satellites are certainly crazy.
Yeah, very cool to look at that satellite picture. And last but not least, we have some video of a National Weather Service office in Goodland, Kansas. They captured a small swarm of, not mayflies, but meteors in this one during the early hours of Sunday, February 19th. And footage posted to the National Weather Service shows meteors and stars traveling over northwest Kansas on Sunday morning.
All right.
You can see them shooting from the sky there in that video.
Love seeing that. You got clear skies, you never know what you're going to see. All right, did you guys see this for our local area just this past weekend, coming right off of that story? We had a report of a fireball meteor that was seen across northwest Ohio. Think about this one. It wasn't just northwest Ohio. In fact, reports came in, official reports in 7 states, including Ohio and parts of Ontario. And those reports were really all over northwest Ohio. So let's put this into motion, get a little bit closer. There were dozens and dozens of reports of that fireball meteor. This was right around Sunday evening, 8:50 p.m., and it was a very vivid streak. So what did it look like if you missed it? I got to thank Nick Lindsay for this video that he sent in. We're going to restart the video here, and you're going to see it streak right across the center of your screen. There it is.
Oh, wow.
Dipping just below the horizon, burning up. I had numerous reports that this was really a vibrant green color. Now, the color of these meteors and meteorites depend on some of the minerals that are associated with them.
Would green be indicative of copper?
Copper. Yeah. So copper burning up in the atmosphere. Of course, these are superheated as they interact with Earth's atmosphere. You're going to see it here again in just a second. There it is, streaking and
that is beautiful.
Burning up.
That's
this
cool.
Video from Perrysburg, so we'll see it right over northwest Ohio.
Yeah.
Very cool sights across our area. Several reports of those. You hear about that one in Texas as well?
Yes. Oh my gosh. That was amazing.
Insane.
Yeah.
So it was captured on like Ring doorbell cameras. You heard a loud boom. It shook the ground. Reports are they actually located at least parts of that meteorite. They estimate that it was over 500 pounds when it impacted the Earth, and it was very large as well. You couldn't even wrap your arms around the size.
Wow.
I wonder how much money that go for.
They are very valuable. We were talking about that one. Again, it must just be in the season of meteors and meteorites showing up. So very cool start to this week's episode. Of course, we thank you for watching on WTOL 11 Plus and on YouTube. We're going to continue on. So much more to come. Take a look at this quick weather fun fact. Well, I guess it depends on how lucky or, should we say, unlucky you could be about that lightning fact. All right, the rest of this evening, now if you're watching as we are recording this on the 22nd of February, we're still in the midst of an alert day, so figured we'd give you a quick update on what's going on. We've had quite a bit of rain, and we're talking soaking rain, and the winds have picked up, and the ice threat was in the northern and western parts of our viewing area, and as the rain ends overnight, winds and mills still gust to 35 miles per hour. Now, we do have winter weather alerts, mainly southern Michigan, but it was a big ice storm across the I-94 corridor. Winter storm up into the thumb of Michigan, where they're seeing several inches of snow, and the ice accumulation is very troublesome across the I-94 corridor. We mentioned this. That storm system, we showed you the video of it rolling out of the Colorado Rockies. Wave number 2 now coming across the Rockies, and they're going to get hit with heavier snow again. Wind, and there's winter storm warnings, blizzard warnings that extend nearly 1,800 miles from the thumb of Michigan all the way back into the central Rockies, a significant wintry system. Now, we are going to be getting close to the end of the heavier rainfall Wednesday night into Thursday morning. We'll see those showers taper off. Some icy, slippery spots will be possible early Thursday morning as we start the day close to the freezing mark. Into the afternoon, we're going to get some sun that returns. Look for a little dry slot that's going to show up across the area. Sunshine's going to boost those wind gusts to 35 to 40 miles per hour and will briefly turn considerably warmer with temperatures surging through the 50s. It could get to the low to mid 60s far to the south and to the east. So let's talk temperatures as we roll into Thursday. It'll be a cool start to the day. And keep in mind, we may be in the mid to upper 30s through about lunchtime to right around 40 degrees. The warmer air comes in from the south, and I'm going to stop the clock right here mid-afternoon. There's our mid to upper 50s. Chance we get to the low to mid 60s off to the south and to the east. Winds will be gusty, though, up to 40 miles per hour as a front eventually pushes through. So for your Thursday, mixed clouds and sunshine, mid to upper 50s. There will be some changes in the air, though, with winds gusting 35 to 40 miles per hour. Near 30 degrees for Friday, near 40 on Saturday, back to the mid-40s Sunday. And we're getting very close to the end of February. This is the last weekend in February. We got rain chances. Nearly certain we're going to get a system next week that will come in and all in the form of rain. If we do that, we expect dry weather beyond that and into early March, mid-40s, which would wrap up this month of February, perhaps with no measurable snowfall. But the rain, boy, did it come down in buckets through the course of your Wednesday. Let's get over to meteorologist Matt Willoughby. Matt, let's talk how much rain we saw. And could you imagine, Matt, just for a second, what if it was cold enough for snow?
Oh, man, I definitely think we'd definitely have over at least 5 to 8 inches of snowfall.
Right?
Easily, yeah.
Some areas that what saw over an inch to an inch and a half of rain, you could talk maybe 10 to 12 inches or more. If it was cold enough. Again, we just missed by a few degrees. We were in about the mid-30s. Good news, Matt, though, we didn't have to shovel any of this.
Yeah, didn't have to shovel in. I mean, that seems like that's been the case pretty much all February, where we see more rain than snow, sadly.
And also typical, Matt, of a La Nina weather pattern as well. As we expected, it would be an active winter season. We'd get numerous storm systems, but we ended up generally on the warm side of many of those systems. That trend does look to continue even into late February as we get that storm system next week.
Yeah, exactly. And we definitely seeing that this late February, and we got even more rain showers to go, seems like, as we head into next week, but no snow. Looks like.
Who took the cake, Matt, as far as rain totals? Where did we see the heaviest rainfall?
Yeah, so to break this down for you, well, looks like we have more out west into the Defiance area who took the cake so far, but we still got a way to go for as far as that rainfall. We're seeing accumulations around just under 2 inches, possibly 1.5 inches just north of Ottawa, and just into Blue Creek, right around 1.7 inches of rainfall so far. Taking it closer back to the Toledo Metro, at least. Down in Bowling Green, they saw just under a inch and a half of rainfall. Even out in Fremont, just around 1.3, and right in the Toledo Metro, just under an inch of rainfall. And as I said, we do have a little bit of more time to go as far as those rainfall totals, and this could be the additional amount that we see as we head into the evening hours. We could like to see even more, a half an inch of more rainfall as we get into this evening. Wausau, I can see about an eighth inch, and even Hillsdale can likely see more ice and even some rain, just around 1.5 inches more as you go between either 4 p.m. and even into the evening hours of this Wednesday. Now, as we take a look at it, as far as that rainfall totals and snowfall totals, we're just around 6.5 inches of rainfall this season, this winter season. Now, if you think about that, if we had this total from today, we could come very close to at least getting close to the winter snowfall total. And that's something that hasn't happened since the 80s, at least. So that's definitely an interesting fact for you to think about, where February, where we could likely see more rainfall than actually snowfall. Meteorologist John Birchbill will be breaking some of that down coming up right after this weather fun fact.
Welcome back in. Thanks again for tuning in on YouTube and WTOL 11+. This has been anything but the usual winter, and we've seen signs of spring as early as February with this mild stretch of weather creating an early spring. And look at these daffodil blooms across parts of northern Ohio, southern Michigan, northern Indiana, already seeing these very early signs of spring. Perhaps you've seen some photos. You can submit your photos to us on the free WTOL 11 weather app and also on social media. And these are are already starting to bud a couple inches out of the ground. Those daffodils getting an early start to the spring season. Of course, hopefully we don't have too much in the way of hard freezes that could potentially damage those as well. Already some flowers in bloom. These snowdrop flowers were really dropping there from the ground. As you look at those snowdrop flowers, again, hard to believe these are already coming up in February, but with how mild it's been lately, that is the trend that we have seen this winter season. And down south where the weather's warmer, the flowers have been coming up early and looking spectacular this year. We got this photo from Matt's hometown of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Looks like a spring sight, yet it's occurring in the month of February. So let's talk about the spring bloom. Of course, we're off to a bit of an early start this year. Across much of the Buckeye State and southern Michigan, the bloom has not quite yet begun. Still a little bit too early on in the season. However, if we look to the south of the Ohio River Valley, we are starting to see the onset of that spring bloom in Kentucky and Tennessee, where the weather gets a little bit warmer. Across much of the Gulf Coast and deep south, from North and South Carolina all the way over towards Texas, a very, very early spring bloom. Those vivid red colors show you where the bloom is coming up to a month early, 20 days early for much of the Gulf Coast and the southeastern contiguous United States. Some cities that are seeing an early spring bloom include Memphis, towards Dallas, Houston, and the Gulf Coast, where that early spring bloom is settling on in. Now, meanwhile, in the desert Southwest, that blue color shows you where the spring bloom is actually later than usual. So this spring season, or at least this February, which feels like spring, hasn't been created equal for all the United States, as we are seeing a bit of a later bloom than usual in some of those milder southwestern locations. Now, with the February warmth, we have seen zero measurable snow this entire month. Nothing other than a trace and a few flakes. As it stands, the least snowy February in Toledo's recorded history, just half an inch of snowfall. That occurred in 2 separate years. If you look way back to the weather history books in 1899 and a bit more recently, some of you may remember 1987, that February, pretty sparse as far as snowfall is concerned. Right now, we take the cake as the least snowy ever recorded February, and if we don't get half an inch, this will go down as the least snowy February that Toledo has ever seen on recorded history. We'll keep a close eye on that, and if you're interested in learning more about the potential links between climate change and February snowfall, head to WTOL.com/email. You can be the first to know about climate change. I've got a newsletter that comes out every Friday, and this week we are breaking down this historic snowfall deficit during the month of February, how climate change may be linked to that, and what you can expect going forward into the start of the month of March. We'll regroup and wrap up our weather hangout after this fun fact.
Ironically, that's the day that we're going to join you again with another weather hangout.
Yes.
If you're joining us on WTOL 11 Plus or on YouTube, we appreciate having you along. We hope we had fun today, talking a little bit of what wintry weather we do hang on to with a little ice. And John, that lack of snowfall is just incredible to me. I can't believe we've gone through February, no measurable snowfall.
Yeah, and this month is, 6-7 degrees above average. It's felt more like spring. We've been above that March average all of February, and that's why we're seeing those early signs of spring, the early bloom. And of course, down in Baton Rouge, looks like they're experiencing the same deal, just a lot warmer.
80 degrees. And
man.
I mean, if you tell me when I moved up here just about a year ago that it wouldn't snow in February, I think you're crazy.
Yeah, we would have been crazy to say that, yet here we are, and many of us just waiting for maybe some of that spring snow, which still does occur. No signs, though, that long-term winter's ever going to be coming back this winter season. It is going to be a few blips, ups and downs like we've had this winter, but nothing that is in extended fashion. Well, we will be joining you again into early March. We appreciate you hanging out with us on this week's Weather Hangout on YouTube or on WTOL 11 Plus. You have a great day.